Okay, so what are we going to talk about? Devarim. What's the advantage of the 1 year cycle? We like the 3 year cycle, correct? But the Rambam already wrote the 3 year cycle is not Pashut. So guys learning in yeshiva, how do they teach Pashut? Right? When the Rambam says the minhag of reading this Torah in the cycle of 3 years is not Pashut. If you're a yeshivish guy, what does that mean? No, if you're a yeshivish guy, if you're reading the Rambam, you get to that part in the Rambam where it says the minhag of the 3 year cycle, it's not Pashut. So it sounds like it's complicated. It's not the way Rambam says. The 1 year cycle is pashut. The 3 year cycle is not pashut. So unless you know how to read the Rambam, you think this one's not so simple. That one's more simple.
No, I think he is saying that. No, because that was the more common. Although it is true that in Egypt at the time where he was, there were Batei Knesset in the same city.
Okay, so the people who know the Rambam the best point out when the Rambam used that word in Rambam Hebrew, it means, like David said, nafos, the widespread minhag. Okay, so Rambam says, yeah, there's a 3 year minhag. Most people around the world do the minhag bavel 1 year, but yes, there was even a synagogue in Fostat, the Al Hashamayim, Al Shamayim, you ever see in Arabic shul, where they still kept this minhag. But yes, but most people aren't eating Ramah and yeshiva like that. Just saying it's a yeshivish thing. By the way, when Rambam says pashut, he doesn't mean like the same Yiddish slang pashut. Okay. But the advantage of the 1 year cycle is it's created something. When Chazal talked about Parsha Shavua, is connected somehow to the holidays and to the, let's say, the seasonal cycle. They're only talking about the ones that they ordained, like the Arba Parshios. So when Rabbi Eliezer ben Aruch read the Parshas Chodesh wrong, you know what week that was. That was right before Nisan, or Rosh Chodesh Nisan, because Chazal said you have to read Parshas Chodesh no matter what. Then. But you're not going to find Vertlach in Chazal, or Maisim Shahaya, Parshas Re'eh. It was Parshas Re'eh, which means, is the end of Av. Okay? Shoftim is always the beginning of Elul. Shoftim, Kiseitse, Kisavo, Mitzavim, means Elul to us, correct? Right? Those are the 4 Parshas you read in Elul. So the Parshas are basically grounded in the year cycle. And they create this pseudo-Kabbalistic, almost, I wouldn't say magical, but connection to what's going on, current events, and the Parsha. It's like, it's this week's Parsha. They didn't realize the irony of this week's Parsha. This week's Parsha is extremely ironic because of things that went down just yesterday. This week's Parsha has, in Shlishi, talks about getting rid of Goyim, okay, and their idols. Okay? It says, when God will get rid of these Goyim from before you, you'll drive them out, sit in their land, dwell in their land. It says, don't follow them, or don't get caught up behind them, means following them ideologically after you've gotten rid of them. How do you ideologically follow those who have been driven out? Let's say, got rid of all the Amorites, all the Canaanites, they're gone. Don't start rewinding and saying, what did the Amorites believe? What did the Canaanites believe? Don't start looking for other ideas. Okay? Well,
about the practices.
What
do the churches look like? What organs do they play?
Well, that's the connection to the pasuk. Ufenti drosh lelohem lemor. Echayavdu al geluim eilet Elohem. Lesekain gamoni. Hey, how their avodah zarah work, and then you'll get to the point where maybe I'll do that. Okay. Now, it says don't do that. Why? Lo taseh kain ladonai elecha. Ki chol to avad Adonai asher sanei asule loehem. Every detestable thing before the Lord, okay, that God hates, they would do. What else? Ki gameth b'nehem with b'nothem yisrafu v'eish loehem. They eventually even came to child sacrifice. Machlokas Rishonim historians, is this referring to Molech specifically? Or some other child sacrifice? Why? Shir for another day. Rishonim disagree. Did Molech involve sacrifice or just passing the child through the fire? And the historians disagree also. Eventually saw good achra. In Canaan, Molech didn't necessarily involve child sacrifice, but in Carthage it did. Okay? Well, it doesn't matter what happens in Carthage. That's nowadays in Tunis. No, because Carthage was founded by Phoenicians. Chazal said that Girgashi picked up and left to Africa. Africa is what Chazal called Northern Africa. Tunis. Carthage. Carthage is anglicized Latin for Carta Chadta, new city. Okay? The Phoenician types who picked up and left Eretz Yisrael, the northern part, there were so many remained. Sidon and Tzor were major cities still, but a lot of them picked up, got on their boats because they were the best boat people back in the day, and they founded what became colonies in North Africa. And they brought their Semitic language and their Baal and Molech and everything else. So apparently in Canaan, Molech did not involve sacrifice, burning the child actually, but in Carthage it did. There was other forms of child sacrifice in the Tophet, mentioned by the Nevi'im, south of Old City of Jerusalem, as a matter of fact. Okay, so this is pretty bad. It doesn't have to be the Baal. It doesn't have to be Molech. When it comes to these Goyim with their strange religious practices, don't start picking up ideas from them. You know why? It will devolve into child sacrifice. Give you a recent example. In the Western world, 2 forms of child sacrifice were invented just in the last decade. Right? And vaccinating children for diseases that do not affect them. Okay? There's already people get against this. The polio, the measles, etc. There were many people dying of polio and measles. So we're not going to discuss that necessarily. Children used to cripple children, right? Fine. Forget that. People tell me those vaccines didn't work either. That's not the point. The point is for things that were not affecting children, people were experimenting on children. Governmentally mandated, correct? I was thanking God by the time Pesach time rolled around in Tufshin Ayin, so it's Tufshin Pei, that'd be 2020. They scared us about the corona thing. And I'd walk around and I'd see no young people affected whatsoever by the China virus, correct? What happened? They were talking about old people dying left and right. How many people died in Kew Garden Hills after Purim from the thing? Or complications thereof, right? Yeah. I mean, we eulogize these people. There are a lot of people dying. You know, could have been, if this plague affected children like it did older people, this could have been a real tragedy, you know, like we read about in the olden days. There's slichas about these things. This used to be normal for human society across the world and across time. So this was a big, great, salvation that this so-called plague did not affect young people. Okay, that was a good thing. But people still experimented on children, and even worse, they had this crazy ideology, dreamt up by Marxists as a way to undermine human society. What the whole "can a man be a woman" thing? You have to convert people into the opposite sex somehow, right?
The only one a religious person my age in my hometown died because of this virus.
Yeah. So they were doing terrible things to children, right? They still are. But this craziness, this child sacrifice craziness, how long did it last in America? A few years, right? So watch out if the whatever ism is leading to child sacrifice. You know it's nonsense. Don't go for that, correct? That's what happened. It repeats. History repeats itself. It doesn't have to be the Baal. What's the next parsha? Talks about a false prophet. Demagogues. What does he do? Let's go do that. Worship other gods, right? It says here, once again, the false prophet, it doesn't have to be, for example, a god by a name. It could be the false prophet of atheism, just kfira of God, which is just as bad, by the way. Rambam says, Avodah Zarah is worshiping something not God, correct? Anything but God. Kfira is denying God. That's just as bad. Different name, that's basically what atheism is. And you have these demigods, you have the demagogues who are there to try to convince people. All these movements have their prophets. They don't call themselves prophets. They don't say Koamar Baal or whatever, but you know who they are. And what do you have to do for such people? Certainly don't listen to them. What should you do? supposed to. Well, they're deserving of the death penalty, right? That's the parsha over here. If there were someone, if you don't have to kill him, he doesn't have a dream. If there were someone in ideal Jewish society who was preaching, "Do not worship God. There is no God. You do not have to keep His Torah," he'd be deserving of, proper Beis Din would have to do away with him. Okay. Well, yeah, maybe a Mesit. It's hard to pin it on Navi Sheker because it doesn't say Ko Amar Baal, right? Yeah, but a lot of them do.
I'm not sure if it's actually required. It says in the Rambam he has to say
Ko Amar,
yeah.
Bar. So he wouldn't get the official death penalty as a Navi Sheker.
I heard it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that he doesn't say it's in the name of God X.
Yeah.
Even if he says it's in the name of Marx, which has
Yeah.
at least the X.
Yeah. So that's what happens. What's the next parsha? Mesit. Friends or family. Sometimes it's them who's trying to, get you the wrong idea. First, know where you're getting your ideas. You know what's great about disconnecting from the world? Rabbi Bar-Hayim was talking about this maybe last week or 2 weeks ago. He made a short clip. Watch it. It says the goal is just to try to stick to the sources of Chazal and the Torah and the Nevi'im and try to arrive at the proper conclusions. Many things are just given to us. They're pashut, as you said. We know what to do. We know what the Torah says. What Allah is. If you have a question that not there yet, it's not mefurash yet, figure it out from what's in front of you. Definitely don't turn on, MSNBC or the New York Times or whatever else and try to get your ideas from there, or anything else for that matter. Good. You'll be a lot healthier. You will not be manipulated. And lastly, you have the Mesit. You're just talking about one person, your friend. Then you have a whole town. Sometimes you could have a whole town that's been corrupted. Okay? People went and got this whole town off the derech, worshipping idols. Now, Chazal said it never actually happened. That's an opinion of Chazal. When they say that, they don't mean that there were towns that weren't corrupted. They mean they never went through with the whole due process and elimination of the town. But it doesn't mean there weren't places where there was a lot of avodah zarah going around and it was really corrupt in some other way. Okay? Yeah. Yeah. So you could have a child who's been rebellious and stuff. The opinion that says Ben Sora Mora never happened, it means we never went through with the due process and actually executed someone from this. And even that's a subject of disagreement. There's a town who says, yeah, it did happen. Okay.
It says he was sitting on the grave of one of those.
Literally or figuratively means I know the facts of the case. No, it says I know the facts of the Erni Dachas. But that's about full. We went all the way. But it has happened in Jewish history. They could find a town, whole neighborhood, whole society of Jews who are mamish convinced of something that is just not Yiddishkeit. That's not Torah. That they convince them to all do an Avera. It's happened.